tell me in a nutshell who you are.
Thank you. My name is Antony Kioko. I was born and brought up in Makueni. That's also where I went to school. My primary and secondary school, it was all in Makueni. So you can consider me a pretty rural boy until I went to university. I went to Jicho University, and I studied agriculture. So I'm an agronomist by training. And then after college, I taught briefly under the Teacher Service Commission before I went to work for Unilever, and we ended up working in a seed business that was a subsidiary of Unilever. And I worked there for about 4 years, and then I went on to work with East Africa Breweries. I was an agricultural advisory manager for North Rift, basically involved in contracting barley farmers and organizing for the delivery of such crop to the maltings. And then after East Africa Breweries, I came to Cereal Growers Association since 2003. So that tells you that for most of my working life now, I've worked for Cereal Growers Association. Initially as a programs manager, leading a couple of programs that we were implementing then as an organization through some donor support, as well as carrying out the core business of CGA, because CGA has got two roles. We have what we work with donors or partners, and that is through grants, but then we also have what we do for the membership, advocating for their interests, ensuring that they are involved in dialogue or participate effectively in dialogues that are happening in the agriculture space, supporting to ensure that we have suitable policies and regulatory framework that supports agriculture. And since the last 7 years, I took over the role of the Chief Executive Officer, so that's where I am today.
Very good. That's quite a consistent path that you have followed. You have all through been an agriculture person. Tell me, I want to understand why you went into agriculture. So before you tell me why, first of all, tell me something about your early struggles. What were the challenges that you faced as you grew up that may perhaps have driven you down this road?
A lot of us know the story about Makueni and much of Lower Eastern in terms of challenges, sometimes with drought and food shortages. I'm not saying that I went into agriculture because I was hungry, but I can say that I went into agriculture because I saw it as an opportunity to alleviate the problem at that time, and in the coming days. It helped that I had some close relatives who were also trained in agriculture, and that time there used to be lots of government support to agricultural extension, so I would enjoy seeing them come home during functions, sometimes driven in the Land Rover GK vehicles, and that was interesting. But at the core of it, I knew that I wanted to do something that would help to alleviate the challenges that the rural folk sometimes go through. And in our area, besides all other challenges that are there, food, and for a variety of reasons, is really at the core of what they survive to deal with.
Very good. Who are some of your early mentors? The people that held your hand as you walked down the path that has led you to where you are today?
So I must say that I had some very good bosses initially. Like I've mentioned, I taught briefly, and not briefly, quite, it was 2 years actually. And then when I went to work in the seed sector, I found some very interesting bosses. My first boss was called Charles Ngana, an interesting guy. He remains my friend today. He was really, really a good guy because he allowed me to take some serious leadership positions, even though I was hardly into my late 30s. I was below 30. Then he allowed me to be a manager and to travel into the region, go to Tanzania and Uganda, register our varieties there and try to establish business there. And really just that fact of entrusting me with the responsibility and entrusting me with negotiations and conversations with the serious policymakers helped to, very early in my life, in my career work, in my career to build my confidence.
Very good. What are your values? What are the things that you appreciate, that drive you? What do you wake up in the morning saying, this is what I want to achieve today? Or this is what I want to do with my life?
I think at the end of the day, you can talk about values, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but I think at the core of it, I want to wake up and feel that at the end of the day, I've done something positive that has changed someone else's life, and that's all. You find that as a family man, you think of what it is that would make your family members proud.
And what do you think that is? What do you think your family would make them very proud if you...
I think they would be very proud to hear that I've done the right thing. I have acted with integrity. I have acted with honesty. I've acted with love and empathy to colleagues and other people that I work with. And those are the things that I think drive me.
Okay. Define success.
Success, now that's a difficult question, but success in my view is if you can do something that transforms other people's lives, and above all, the other people who can take up and continue with that journey. And therefore, either in the family setup or even at work, one of the things that I would consider is useful for me when I consider the whole aspect of success is what I'm doing supportive of what the collective goal is. Is it something that I am able to say honestly that I'm supporting the rest of the team members to carry on with that work and to amplify it even more? I think that is the broad way in which I can describe success. But really, it's not about just the individual, in this case, not just about me, but what it is that collectively we can achieve.
Okay, very, very good. Now, I want to go into your area of expertise. Now that we have established who you are, let's go into your area of expertise. What do you think of the perennial debate between those who push for organic farming and those who, to the exclusion of those who push for the use of chemical fertilizers and so on and so forth? Basically, my question is this: is organic farming capable of feeding the world by itself, or do we need to supplement it with chemical fertilizers?
That's a good question. 2 weeks ago, I was in a meeting with my chairman, Stefanas Kruger. He runs a farm up in Edred, and he gave me an illustration about farming being akin to playing golf. And he said that if you're a farmer, if you're playing golf, you have a club, the one that you hit a golf ball with, you have a different club for each situation. That's why you find in the golf cart, you see a player make a stop and they pull out a particular club, they look at it, they say no, they look at the situation and they change. They return it into the kit and pick another one. Now, he told me that similarly, a farmer will adopt different tools and techniques to suit different situations. To narrow it down to your debate about organic farming and chemical use and all that, I will tell you this. Both of them are necessary. Both of them must be used in different combinations. There will be moments when organic farming could do, but there are also moments that it cannot be enough. And my personal take is that it is probably impossible to feed the world on organic farming alone. You need chemicals. But then what is equally important is to ensure that those chemicals are used in a manner that does not either harm the environment or harm the user or the person who is applying those chemicals as well as the person who is going to consume the food that is going to come out of that process. So what is necessary to emphasize is safe use of pesticides, chemicals if you want. But you cannot say that you can use either to the exclusion of the other.
Then how can we ensure the safe use of chemicals? There have been reports of, the food chain being compromised by high levels of residue. What can be done to reverse that? What is your take?
Number one, we got to appreciate that this country has laws that govern how pesticides are used. We've got laws on how to manage or how to preserve the environment. We have laws on how to test the safety and efficacy of pesticides. And we have government agencies then that do implement those rules. Now, what is important is that to ensure that, number one, those laws are kept to. Then number two, that the users are trained and empowered to follow those laws and to ensure that when they are using these products, they are doing so in a manner that protects them, number one. For example, basics such as ensuring that if a user of pesticides is on the job, they are properly attired, they are wearing the PPEs, the personal protective equipment, that they are spraying along the wind, not against the wind, that they are using the correct pesticides and then they also keep to the pre-harvest intervals or the re-entry intervals. Those are basic trainings, and that is why it's important for extension staff and other people who work with farmers, such as even ourselves, a Cereal Growers Association, to ensure that farmers are properly trained and guided to ensure that they do not harm themselves.
What are the top challenges that farmers face today?
Challenges for farmers are too many, but the top ones, I think I like your word, the top ones. The first one is the weather. There is a lot of, because of climate change, there is lots of erratic rains that are coming at the wrong time, sometimes too much rains at the wrong time. We just saw a couple of weeks ago rains coming at a time when farmers were still harvesting and they were wondering, do we plant or do we plant? The weather is a big problem, climate change, broadly speaking, but then also increased cost of production because of a variety of issues. And then you also have volatile markets, sometimes inconsistent government policy. All these are issues that I can say would be the top challenges that face farmers today.
Speaking of government policy, the country is now going through some debate on amending the constitution. Do you think this debate has taken farmers' issues into account? And if it hasn't, what would you recommend?
Already, let me say this, the constitution or the government policy space already has a number of things that I would say, in theory, on paper, they're okay. In my observation, the issue sometimes is not so much about whether the law is there or the law is not there. It is more about, is the law being applied? Is the law being evenly applied to ensure that farmers benefit, or not just farmers, that everybody who is involved in the value chain is benefiting, because we want sustainable agriculture. And a friend of mine long ago told me that there's nothing that is more sustainable than a profitable business. So we want to ensure that everybody is making money. So the policy, the laws could be there. Of course, when you listen to the debate, the political debate that surrounds the current effort to amend the constitution, it's very difficult to pick agriculture mentioned there as a word, and maybe that is not a surprise. I mean, there is lots of other more sensational things to talk about in that debate. So I wouldn't want to say it is not there, it's probably there, but even if it was not through the new effort, maybe the law is there. What's important is to ensure that everybody who is involved keeps at the back of their mind that the farmer needs support to ensure that they can profitably engage in farming. Otherwise, that's the only reason that's the only way we're going to remain food and nutrition secure as a country.
Are cereal growers happy?
Cereal farmers are struggling, to be honest with you. I just came from the field, and previous week I was up in North Rift, and then last week I was in Upper Eastern. And you look at the struggles that farmers are going through, having to grapple with the challenges that we have just spoken about, and sometimes with very little government support, sometimes in a very disaggregated manner, so that economies of scale are not possible. So I would say that a lot more can be done to ensure that the farmers are happy. And if they're happy, then it means that they can invest more in agriculture. And one of the things that people forget, Kariuki, is that people talk about the private sector. They forget that even the farmer is a private sector player. It's a private investor. Whether I'm doing 1 acre or 2 acres or 10,000 acres, that is my money. I can choose to use that money elsewhere. When I choose to invest it in food production for this country, that effort must be respected.
In other words, agriculture is business.
Agriculture is business, and a very serious business.
Are we, from your assessment, and if you don't have the statistics, it's okay, but from your assessment, from your experience, are we, if you were to give a percentage, for example, how close are we to having national food security? Or how far are we?
Actually, we shouldn't be food insecure, if you ask me. We have the resources, we have the expertise, we have the actors who should ensure that we are food secure. We import probably 10 to 15% of our maize from the region Uganda, Tanzania, sometimes Ethiopia. And in my view, we should be exporting maize. Maize is not something that we should be importing from anywhere. You can talk about the cost of production and the quality and other things, but the land is there, the expertise and the interest is there. We should be food secure. But even if you went out of maize and talk about the other, key staples, you find that we should be self-sufficient in most of them. We should be self-sufficient in potatoes, for example. We should be quite close to self-sufficiency in wheat, in rice, and the pulses as well. In other words, the simple answer would be we're not quite there, but the potential is there to at least be food secure or self-sufficient in a lot of the key staples. We may keep importing some, but the key ones, we are very close, and we should be able to produce enough if we got our act together.
What have been the most memorable achievements of the CGA in the since your tenure here? There are many, but I can think of a few. First one is that the very strong working relationship with the county governments. The county governments came in 2013, 2014. And since that time, we have had a very strong presence on the ground, and we have worked very well with the county governments to jointly implement programs that are very supportive of agriculture. And if you went to the counties and you talk to their extension staff, they will tell you that what we do with them is absolutely amazing. But then at the national level, we have also worked on a local wheat purchase program that has been on and working fairly well, which in my assessment is the very reason why we still have significant wheat farming in this country. And what it entails is that
we have a tripartite agreement with government and the cereal millers, which obligates them to purchase the local wheat first before they import, because we don't produce enough wheat, so they must import. But then the arrangement is such that before they consider importing what they must import, they should mop up what is locally produced at a viable price, and I think that has been an absolute win for CGA. The other win is our constant and engagement with government in various dialogue sessions. Cereal Growers Association is a member of many technical working groups with government, many task forces we've been members to, including the maize industry task force of 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago. And I mean, I would say that those are the three main successes at the grassroots, at the national level, and continuously in the kind of strong partnerships we have created with government and other partners.
As we close, I would like to go back to Antony Kioko, the man. What is the best advice you've ever received in your life?
The best advice that I received, I've received so much good advice. But the best advice that I have ever received was from my grandmother. And she told me that when you go to bed, make sure that there isn't anyone who would, in Kikamba they say, who would shake their head in disappointment with something that you've done to them for that day. And I try to live by that. I try to do the right thing, try to make sure that I do not unnecessarily hurt or act maliciously against anyone, because I feel that is how to also create a burden in your heart.
What about the book that has made the biggest impact in your life or your perception of the world? Which book have you read that stands out to you? It could be fiction.
Sapiens.
Eh?
Sapiens.
Sapiens. Which book is that?
Sapiens is a very interesting book by Professor Yuval Harari, and it talks about the history of humankind, where we've been and where we have come to. And reading it, he's a professor at Oxford University, and just reading that book helped me to appreciate that the world is bigger than what I have always described as the world, because everybody has their version of the world. And I thought that that was an absolutely life-changing book to me.
Oh, the Sapiens. I will look for it.
Yeah, look for it, Sapiens.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you are not doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing? Other than this, if you could pick another career than the one you are following now, which one would it be?
I'll be a teacher.
Okay. What would you be teaching?
Anything else. I mean, it wouldn't matter what I'm teaching. What I like about teaching is the absolute joy I imagine a teacher, gets when they see waves and waves of young minds come in and go out as adults or semi-adults, and what they must feel when they meet former students who are now successful in life and who are making a difference elsewhere. I can't think of a more rewarding career.
Okay, that's very good. Maybe when you retire from serving farmers, you can go back to teaching.
Maybe I should. I find it fascinating.
So when Kioko is gone, what shall they say about you?
I guess I'll leave that to them, but I mean...
Maybe what they write on your tombstone.
If there's something that they should write on the tombstone, let it be that he's a man who did his best with whatever he had.
He came, he saw, and
he did the best he could.
Okay.
Not sure whether he conquered, but he did the best he could.
I think you conquered since you're a CEO. you know, you must have...
Oh, Mandela said that as you go up, as you get at the top of one hill, you realize there are many other hills. Yes. So we are where we are today as an organization, and we keep discussing with my fantastic team. And what we know is that we have come some way. We've made a mark, but there's still, I mean there's a lot more that still needs to be done going forward.
Okay, Mr. Kioko, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much and welcome.
Asante.
Okay.